do have a couple of guests here. We've got Laura Lewis, LRB, the right acronym these days. Actually, that's okay. We know Laura Lewis more than the acronym, so. We have Brad Patterson in the room as well, so we don't have a special window for him, but he can wave. He's right across the table from me. Gilmore Bell. And then technically guest-wise, we kind of have them in as different types of partnerships with cities. So we have Jarrett Waite. He's not a voting board member, but we love having our cities in here. So he's with Santa Clara. We've got Denise, who's a member. Cedar Hills is a member of Utopia, a voting member in ways. Depends on whether it's financial or not, but not a member of UIA. But we love, it's a UIA project in their city, so it does impact. It's complicated. We love having two governmental organizations that we have to balance between, and I'm sure Jason would love to merge the two so we don't have two sets of books and audits and all that fun stuff, but it is what it is. Are we good with the live stream?
Yes.
Okay, so we can officially start the meeting, Dirk.
Okay, thank you, Roger, and thank you everyone for being here today. I'm sorry I'm not going to turn my camera on. I'm traveling today, so using a cell phone, not very easy to do a Zoom meeting, but welcome our guests. And has anybody had a chance to review the June 9th minutes and make a motion on those?
This is Brant. I motion to approve the June 9th minutes as recommended.
Thanks, Brant. Is there a second?
This is John Flores. I'll second.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Yeah, it looks like we got some financial stuff to discuss today. Roger, I'll just turn the time over to you to get started with that.
So yeah, let me give you some context on this. We have a resolution for the issuance of a bond. We have the amount set to 22 million. That's a ceiling, right? We expect that usually that gives us some headroom on funds that we would actually need. This is our kind of normal, we don't take it for granted that this is a large amount of money. So I don't want to say, hey, this is just our normal debt issuance. But it has become a little bit normal in the sense that we have a lot of network built and we have to continue to grow that network as there's new development. We also have customers that like to get connected to that network. And so obviously that costs us money. In the context of that, the return on investment from issuing debt, getting revenues and paying that back gets better and better as we have finished out the build out of cities, and we're mostly financing just new growth and installations into those networks. There's things here and there. Sometimes we have to relocate things or upgrade things that don't immediately generate revenue. But if you're just to look at the overall expectation for this is debt that generates a lot of money. This allows us to continue to increase the amount of debt that we pay on Utopia bonds or transfer, as we pay for services between Utopia and UIA, how does that work? We look at that every year as the agreement between the two agencies and what we pay, because UIA owns network and Utopia owns the operations and some networks. So we have money that UIA pays Utopia as we put customers on the UIA network. So it is mutually beneficial as both to Utopia and UIA as we grow and add customers. So it allows us, the point I'm getting to is it allows us to pay more on the Utopia debt. And so that structure is, the shortfalls there on payments become a loan from the cities that we eventually intend to plan back or pay back on the Utopia side of things. But it allows for that. If we weren't issuing debt, our ability to fund new installations and to cover increasing payments at Utopia on Utopia's debt payments would be very limited. So as we look at that, say this is a great return on investment for money. It allows us to continue to increase payments at Utopia and supplies room for growth. It's a great use of debt. We wish all of our debt was like this, right? As far as kind of how things have been going relative to that, things have been going really well. We're actually coming off of the best 3 months that we've ever had at Utopia across our Utopia and UIA and city partner projects. Just in total, we've been averaging about 1,100 new customers over the last 3 months. So not just, we didn't hit a record single month, but we hit our record 3 months, which is even better because it's sustained over a longer period of time. So obviously that costs money to do. So again, we're issuing debt to pay. We hope to continue that. Things always do get busier in the summer, so they'll slow down in the winter, but this has been a very strong summer. You'll see that in our charts. In the packet, we have our subscriber growth charts in there that kind of show where that's happening, and you know, it is really great growth. We're about 76,500 customers now across all of the partnerships. So that's been really great growth. But that's the purpose of the money. Usually when we're doing these bond resolutions, it's good for us to kind of get a description from on the financing side, kind of explain the terms on that. And so we have Laura Lewis. Are you prepared to speak to it? And after Laura Lewis, is there anything, Brad, you'd want to share? Okay, so we'll, if you're okay, Derek, I'm kind of like asking people to speak, but I'd like to hear from both Laura and Brad, if that's appropriate at this time.
Yeah, that sounds great. Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The parameters resolution that's in front of you has, you know, the 4 elements that set the parameters that the designated officers will be granted approval to finalize everything, as long as we, you know, stay within those parameters. It's a maximum par amount of 22 million, maximum interest rate of 7%. I don't believe we'll get there by earning anywhere close to that. 27 years maturity and a 3% discount, or the bonds have to be sold at 97%. The designated officers are the chairman of the board, any vice chair of the board, the chief executive officer, and the secretary treasurer. Any 3 of those collectively can do our final approval. You know, some may be asking sort of, ooh, 7%, that seems scary. I'm always cautious just because I, you know, don't want to have to start the process all over again should those interest rates go up. What we're currently seeing in the market is 5% coupons with yields on like a 25-year deal we did price last week, probably in the 470 range, in that neighborhood. So, you know, if someone's really on edge about that 7%, we could certainly lower it. You know, I'd be comfortable with 6 if that made anyone feel more warm and fuzzy, but I don't think that we'll hit anywhere near that. We're scheduled to meet with the rating agencies around singular, because we still can't get anyone else to understand this besides Fitch, on September 12th. This resolution will call for you to hold a public hearing on September 8th. And then shortly after the League of Cities and Towns Fall Conference, which is at the 1st of October, we plan to pre-price and sell the bonds with a closing on or about October 23rd. And with that, if Brad, if you want to add anything I may have forgotten or correct or anything like that.
No, Laura, I really appreciate it. I just wanted to hit the other terms of the bonds themselves. As Laura mentioned, we have bonds. Roger mentioned the bonds don't exceed in the aggregate principal amount of $22 million. They can't have an interest rate greater than 7% per annum. They can't have a maturity any greater than 27 years, and we can't have a maximum discount on the bonds any greater than 97% of the total principal amount of the bonds. As Laura mentioned, the resolution provides for the appointment of some designated officers to finalize the pricing terms of the bonds. Those terms will be determined, as Laura mentioned, when we price the bonds. There will be no further authorization from the board that needs to be sought. However, as Laura mentioned, there will be a public hearing set for this. So there will be one more meeting where we actually give the public an opportunity to have input with respect to the issuance of the bonds if they choose to do so. One other thing the parameters resolution does is it permits the publication of a notice of bonds to be issued from the time that notice of bonds to be issued is published until 30 days after that. Folks can come in and challenge the issuance of the bonds if they choose to do so. If they don't do that within the 30-day period, then they are prohibited from bringing such action in the future. And so that is the purpose of this particular parameters resolution. Happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Brad, I'll just make one quick clarification. You said can't be sold at a discount of more than 97%. The discount would be 3%. The price is 97. So that's just a clarification there.
Thank you. That was a big discount, 97.
Yeah.
I would have to, woo,
That's why I'm not a financial.
we could all buy those bonds.
Laura, Jason, when do you expect to get the bonds closed? Are we going to be, do you think we're going to be after a potential interest rate change we're hearing about in September?
We're planning on pricing after the league conference, which is the league conference is scheduled for October 1st and 2nd. The pricing will take place the week of October 6th to the 9th, somewhere is the schedule that we're on. We have the ability to be flexible once we have the rating, which we're expecting on September 26th. So should, the market appear that, let's say there's a week of heavy supply because, everyone's expecting interest rate reduction, we could determine to postpone until a week of, slightly lower supply. We had high supply last week, 19 billion, something like that. We've only got 10 or 11 this week. I was just looking at the percentage that the economists who they poll, I don't know who those are, but they poll several economists nationwide of what do you think the likelihood of a interest rate reduction is. That goes, the percentage that believe that will happen increases as we go out further in the year. So we will be watching that carefully, and hopefully we'll be able to catch a little bit of that positive wave if interest rates are reduced. Rates come down, the municipal rates have come down this last week about 5 basis points while treasury rates are going up. It's kind of an interesting thing because we're seeing a compression between the the effective rates, which actually helps the municipal market quite a bit.
Just a quick question. So is it anticipated that these could be refunded or refinanced at some future date? Is it being set up in that fashion?
Absolutely. Every time we price, we have a conversation as to what we can do a 10-year call with, no impact on the rate. If I were to say, we insist on a 5-year call, they'll be able to deliver that, but it would probably cost us another % in rate. So we have that discussion as we get closer to pricing and determine what the bondholders are, sort of how much supply, how much are they tax exempts, whatever. We frequently can get a 9-year par call. Recently, we priced a transaction in Midvale where we discussed an 8-year call, which would have synced it up with some other outstanding bonds when they were callable. But the impact was something like 30-ish basis points, and it just wasn't worth the cost. So at a minimum, they'll be callable in 10 years. If we can make that 9 or less, we will seek to do that.
Does any other board members have any questions for Laura, Roger, Jeff?
I just have a general question. So are the connections and whatever projects we're doing going to outlast the bonds? It's kind of a basic finance. You shouldn't be paying for something that you ate 6 months ago or whatever. So
Yeah, so these connections last potentially 30, 40 plus years. These are mostly we're paying for connections to homes. So there is some sort of churn. I think our churn rate's in the 3 to 4% range. It kind of fluctuates a little bit. So on average, they last far longer than the term of the, well, I guess individually they may not last that term, but the revenue would come back several times if that makes sense, right? The ROI on an installation to a home is a few years at most. And so versus 27 years term on bond, that's a really good return. But you kind of just cycle those things, right? We'll have an installation that goes in, even if that customer were to disconnect, if we come back years later, usually the conduit and the fiber is still intact. Even if it isn't, and we have to rerun a fiber, the conduit usually still is. And so there is value in that asset that gets built out there. On an installation perspective, as far as mainline, that stuff is easily good for 40, 50 years. So mainline being, along the street that serves an area of the city, that's going to be a larger conduit and is maintained because it's always active versus an installation to a house that could go dark and be cut up by a shovel or something like that. But that's rare. Most people never leave. I mean, they love the service so much. But that's a great, what the investment, what that creates and how long that's good for. Kind of different buckets there and different lifespans, but they're all well within, the 27-year term as far as the value of it.
okay, and then the conversation you started with, if this is just purely hypothetical, if we weren't trying to pay back our keep the city's distribution at the same level it is right now, are we generating enough cash that we wouldn't have to bond every time? Or are we pretty close to do new connections? Are we pretty close to being able to do that without bonding?
So the portion of the bonds that we're paying essentially back to the cities is approaching 5 million. Is that right, Jason?
Yeah, it's between $4 and $5 million increase this year.
So our need for new revenue or new cash to fund installation and growth is more than that, right? So if we stopped that kind of dividends, we still would need to issue debt. We would just issue less. But because that new debt is such a strong ROI, we just kind of try to balance things of saying, can we still make dividend payments to the city? Can we also fund growth? Do we want to push it further on either side of that? And really, I think where we're at is kind of a delicate balance of that. It's both, making progress with the cities and the dividend payment there on the old, and we call it dividend payment, but really it's kind of paying as much of the debt payments we can at Utopia without a shortfall falling on the cities. So we're making progress there while also being able to fund growth. And this represents kind of a balance of those two goals. We've had a very strong message from cities that they don't want that amount to decrease, that they'd like us to continue to up that every year. But also, if we issued more debt, could we bump that up a little more? It's not a good use of funds. We're kind of, again, trying to balance that. But this year, we're also facing was it $4 million more of debt payments on previous bonds. And so a lot of our revenue growth has been to keep up with debt payments. But that's this fiscal year problem. Next fiscal year, we should be in a better position either to have more cash available that we don't have to issue debt for, or to make more dividend payment. I'd say incrementally better next year. And each year we expect to do better and better over time with both of those goals, either the self-funding of growth or an increased dividend payment, or a little of both, right? Kind of that balancing of priorities between those two.
Yeah, yeah. Brenda, if I'm going to answer that question of if hypothetically we didn't pay dividends to city, which is nowhere in our plans in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
If
I
we're-
get that.
Yeah, if we were to do that, could we fund our growth that we would need to keep operations going just off of our cash flow? The answer for fiscal year 2026 would be no, because of our increased bond payments being so high. We have some of our bonds coming on for some of our big city projects like Syracuse and uh, West Haven, and just some of those are coming on. If you're looking at fiscal year 2027, though, I think the answer, I haven't done the numbers to look, but I believe the answer would be yes for
Okay.
fiscal year 2027, but not 2026.
Okay, that makes sense.
The cities want us to pay more of the Utopia bond payments versus cash fund. I think it's going to make sense for us to continue issue debt, so long as we have a very strong return on that debt. Again, this isn't building a lot of mainline or new cities. This is primarily just for growing revenues and installations in cities, which is fantastic use of it.
Yeah, if you look at our current strategy is as long as we can hit the returns that we've been projecting in both the budgets and what I've been projecting to the bond rating agencies, they're very, very good returns on this money. And as long as the demand's out there to generate those returns, we think we're in much better financial position, and we expect the demand to be there for at least the next few years.
Okay, I just had to ask the question to see where we were.
Brenda, I like your question. I think we just need to figure out, Brad and Nicole, we can start charging impact fees. That'd generate the rest of the money. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Brad.
You just need to pay a visit up to Capitol Hill, that's all.
And I guess if I'm going to correct one more thing, Roger said that our residential churn's between 3% and 4%, which has been true for years and years and years. We are actually between 4% and 5% this year, primarily because of some of the competition we saw in two specific markets. We think it's temporary, but we'll see.
Yeah, if you were to dig into some of the cities specifically, you'll see a little higher in Brigham City, Centerville, a few of the cities that we've got overbuilt by quantum fiber. We didn't really lose a lot, but it was enough to tick up the churn rate a little bit. And despite their door-to-door marketing and pushing that really hard, we've, for the most part, we kind of recovered the number of customers we lost. If not, it's kind of trending that way. So we have seen some competitive impact, more intense, I guess, than we've seen in the past, but we're still doing very well. So 4 to 5% churn is still phenomenal. Other non-Utopia broadband life, 10% was considered pretty good for a broadband provider. So even 4 to 5% at Utopia is far better than industry norms.
Okay, is there any other questions from board members? Hearing none. So we've got a resolution for the parameters resolution for the bond. If anyone is ready to.
We don't have the votes. We don't have enough people to vote on this right now.
Oh dear. Why don't we, I guess,
do the other items while we're pinging people over text, trying to get another person on to hit the threshold.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think are we doing the financial update first?
Yep.
Okay, Jason, go ahead and get started with that.
Hey, let me share my screen here really quick. I'm showing you the financial update here for our projected numbers through June 30th. So this shows our year-end projections. There are still, especially on the expense side, some invoices coming through, but most of that will probably be capital project stuff, is mostly what we would see come through there. If you look at our revenue projections for the year, where we expect in the year. First line there's residential transport. We're about $342,000 below where we projected to be the end of the year. The primary reason for that is when I did the budget, I had projected an October 1st date that we would have our increase that we did last year go through to customers. That increase actually was phased in over October and November. And that phasing in brought in a little bit less revenue than I projected. But other than that, we would have been right on where I projected revenue to be, and our revenue growth would have been very good. Business revenue, we're right on where we projected. Fiber lease revenue, we're going to be right on where we projected. Those two didn't have increases. So if you look at customer counts, we did a good job hitting where we expected to be. And if you look at just kind of, if you look over here at the period ended June 30th, 24 versus June 30th, 2025, we have about a $6.7 million increase in revenue year over year. A very, very good increase year over year. That's higher than I told the bond people that it would be. So marketing expense though was higher. We did start some different marketing campaigns. I should have put the year-end budget revision in here. We did revise this up, so we actually have a higher budget number than the 1.1 million we have here, but we did come in a little bit higher than we projected to come in to start the year. And yeah, other than that, I think our financials look very strong and look very good for the year. Any questions on the financial update? If not,
Sorry, go ahead, Jason. Sorry, I was trying to get off mute. I did have one quick question. The on the marketing is that the folks that we have out working on sales? Is that being funded from UIA and Utopia, or just one or the other?
It's UIA and Utopia, depending on what project we have them going for. If it's for in our existing cities or our partner cities, that when I say partner cities, I mean partner cities that UIA issued the debt for them. So that would be everybody but Bountiful, Idaho Falls, and Yellowstone Fiber. If it's not for one of those three, then it is coming through UIA. So that'd be the door-to-door sales we have going on inside our cities, which primarily so far been mostly in the original 11 Utopia cities. Although I do know that we have plans in the next year to be expanding that out into some of the partner city areas where we think we have some opportunity to increase our take rates.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Our revenue charts, if we look at our growth in revenue, once again, blue line's Utopia, red line's UIA, and the green line's combined. What we're looking at here, if you can see, we just passed, once again, we mentioned this is still through just April on this one. Dang it, I thought I had this updated. I must have got the wrong month. I'm sorry. We still have had good growth. If you look at May and June, we're up here closer to 4.2 or 4.1, 4.2 is where we are. We had a couple very good months in May and June for the network. And it looks like this one is updated for the bond payments for just UIA. If you look at our revenue versus our total bond payments, each of these dotted lines, once again, it's a new bond issuance where they take our total yearly debt payments. This last dotted orange one's what was for the bond that we did in fiscal year 2025 last October. And if you see between the time we issued that bond and now, that gap continues to grow. We've had very, very good revenue growth. Any questions on the revenue charts?
Okay, hearing none. Thank you for your work on that, Jason. I appreciate that. Board does. Roger, do we have enough to vote, or we need to go to the network update?
We need a network update. We're still kind of sending some texts here, trying to get responses from other board members.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Roger.
Share my screen. So I just want to draw attention to a couple of charts here. So our take rates generally go up per city, but it's kind of a moving target. Sometimes there's new development, but actual subscriber numbers is what generates revenue. You see that growth's been really good. There is kind of a story to be told in each individual city. So a couple of things I just want to point out is you mentioned that door-to-door marketing effort. As you know, we have pushed that here and there, and that's been effective. So here, Orem is this brown line up near the top. And it's kind of hard to see because it matches the Idaho Falls growth here, but that actually had a really nice uptick there at the tail end. And that's the result of the door-to-door timing as it hit Orem. You can also see here, as we did that previously in West Valley City, that bumped up there. This was this purple line here being Murray. So we also ran a door-to-door campaign there. So I mean, we actually see those months end up being the best months we've ever had in those cities when we do have that door-to-door campaign. And that's not a one-time thing. We kind of expect to kind of cycle that through. We track, what doors have they knocked and how many responses. We don't want it to be too heavy-handed. What we've found is we've got a team that we contracted with from an RFP. And then we've been working really closely with them just to kind of mitigate, we don't want this to be aggressive or pushy or generate complaints. This is very important that we maintain reputation of Utopia and its relationship with the cities. And that's been managed very well. And so, if you do get complaints about it, ever, please let us know. But we feel like it's been done, delicately, I guess. And we've not really gotten much negative feedback. And when we have, we address it immediately. So we've been very happy with the results of that. The other stories that aren't so great in here, you can see where Brigham City's numbers actually did go down a little bit. That was what I mentioned earlier. That was a quantum fiber campaign in that city. But overall, it's kind of just a blip on the radar a little bit, because we do see subscriber growth still happening there again now that that campaign has left the city. So we expect to make up all of the losses there. People, tend to value our customer service and the choice of providers and all the benefits that we bring over a quantum fiber solution, which quantum fiber, for those that aren't familiar, is under Lumen, which is the company now that CenturyLink calls themselves. So they renamed. But obviously they don't have the same reputation as Utopia on customer service and reliability and things like that. So we tend to see a lot of customers come back. But yeah, overall, again, we can dig into residential numbers, specifically, and your city specific charts. Sometimes the formulas don't pick things up, so we find some errors where things don't get carried through. But I think this one's pretty updated. Spent some time making sure we updated our formulas on these. But if you have any questions specific to your cities, please let us know. And it could be offline as well. We're always available to answer questions. But overall, we're pretty happy with things. I mean, we've been at this thing over 20 years, right? And we see take rates and demand continuing to climb. We see more and more events setting records for broadband usage. I was just attended a conference last week, and there was a presentation showing the top 10 days of the internet, meaning just what events or things happen that cause more bandwidth use than we've ever seen in the past. And the top 10 events ever on the internet have happened just in the last 2 years. So we continue to see new things happening that are pushing demand for broadband. Curious what those were. I think number one was a Fortnite event where they basically hosted a big event online, and it was kind of a new version of the game or something. There was a Call of Duty night. So some video games have been in the top 10. but most of them have been NFL football games being streamed. So Amazon carrying those games, and then there was kind of a forecast of the future biggest event ever on the internet, expected to be a future NFL game that's going to be streamed by YouTube TV as a free event. I guess maybe not YouTube TV, just YouTube. So that, you know, we continue to see people wanting better broadband to support those, so they can get sometimes multi-screen in the home where they're watching different places, or they want the high definition not even high definition, but the 4K video feed version that uses a lot more bandwidth. Latency also being important, right? You don't want to hear people celebrating the touchdown before you actually see it, right? You want your connection to be on top of things. So it's exciting to see demand continuing, new applications like VR and augmented reality and AI and all these things that are driving more use or need for broadband. So the future is still strong, and we continue to see more and more people picking fiber over every other available option. You'll hear a lot of news about Starlink and how awesome that is, and it is a very cool technology, but it still is more expensive, has terrible latency, and less reliability than fiber. So we still, it's not a thing to take customers away from the network, but it is a cool thing to use when you're in the middle of nowhere or extremely rural environments. And we continue to beat out over any other option like cable or fixed wireless. So here we are continuing to invest in these networks, but even more confident than ever that we'll get customers and continue to grow our revenue base, but also just the benefit to our communities, which is very important to us. So that's kind of the subscriber report, and I don't know that we're just not getting responses. There's so many people still on vacation getting that last minute.
Secretary was reaching out to me. She can try calling more on.
Well, I hope I hope that football game goes better than Mike Tyson's boxing match. I won't say what subscriber that was, but it was terrible to watch.
Netflix. And I think, you know, sometimes when those new events happen, it's the servers, you know, the content providers that can't keep up with demand. I think in that case it was them. So unfortunately, it didn't matter how good of an internet connection you had. It may have struggled because Netflix couldn't keep up, but we're prepared, at least on our side. We do have a lot of people ask us, well, how does that work, right? Where does this stuff come from? And there has been a lot of work, specifically in Salt Lake, for an internet exchange. In part, you know, us in partnership with X Mission initially put that in place and allowed various providers in the state to interconnect. And so there's what's called the SLIX peering exchange, and there's information that like SLIX, SLX.net, I think it is. I better check and make sure that's the right website. Yeah, SLIX.net. And in there, it lists the current participants that connect directly through this peering exchange. And in there, you have like Google and Amazon and a lot of these large content providers. So rather than this going across the country to data centers, all of these major providers and the content providers themselves connect to each other directly, and that enables these content providers to keep up with the demand, right? They're not having to send this across the country, but we connect directly, and they love it because it improves performance and lowers their cost, but providers love it as well because it improves the performance and lowers their cost, and it's all mutually beneficial. But if that's become a very major peering exchange for internet traffic here in Salt Lake City. We're, you know, pretty excited for our role in that. I would say X Mission's taking the lead role in that, and manages that, but it's pretty awesome actually. Utah didn't have a peering exchange about 10 years ago. It was just kind of little onesie twosie peerings, but to have it organized and to have grown to the point it is today is a dramatic increase in the performance and capacity of internet in Utah as a result. We're still not getting anybody, are we? I've not seen the attendance.
I haven't seen anything change. Nicole was gonna call over and see if she could get a hold of someone.
Maybe give us 5 minutes of pinging people if you're willing. We apologize for that, but trying to get enough people on here to vote. Because otherwise we're going to call another meeting, and I hate to do that too.
We need either Layton or Orem. Bill and Payson combined don't make a difference in the voting.
Thanks, Brandon. Who's the other?
Tom McDonald.
To the UIA.
Friends, secretary, yes, he's Utopia, Tom McDonald is. Friends secretary said he's at a meeting till 11. Did we try his cell? Do you have Bren's cell?
I just texted his cell.
Okay.
And Tom McDonald's an alternate.
Bren said to be something fine to fill in for him. So I feel that if we really fix to get Tom and have Bren authorize that he was his alternate. Or that he, he was filling in for him. But we don't have
phone number. We got Brandon.
Yeah, message Bren, you can just see if he can.
I texted him, like, can you just get on for 5 minutes? And then Alex hasn't responded to me. Richard just got a call. We're hoping that somebody asking for a link to get in.
Alex is coming on right now.
Alex is coming up. All right.
Okay, he just got on. He just got on here. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah.
Alex is on.
Can you close that
Roger, you
door?
gonna want us to
Sorry.
do a quick review of the parameters? When he get,
Yeah. There's Alex, can you hear us? Are you on?
Yes.
Okay, you're just enough so that we could vote on this with Layton. But just as a quick recap, we have a parameters resolution. Laura, do you want to give us the quick numbers? This is just for the UIA growth for installations,
Yes.
some expansion.
so the Reader's Digest version is a par amount of not to exceed 22 million. Maximum interest rate currently set at 7%. Again, we don't think it will be anywhere near that. Not more than 27-year final maturity, and a discount that shall not exceed 3%, meaning that the price has to be at least 97 cents on the dollar. This resolution will set a public hearing on September 8th, and it will grant to any three of the following: the chair of the board, the vice chair, any vice chair, the chief executive officer, and the secretary treasurer will be the designated officers. Any three of those can finalize the bonds as long as we are in compliance within the parameters.
Okay, Laura.
Other than just, this was a pretty, mostly for installations. It's a strong revenue to add installations to the network. But this doesn't contemplate any large projects, other than just kind of the annual need for funding and, the incremental growth, some upgrades, and primarily installations of customers.
Okay.
Hey, Roger, I should have looked earlier. Just one real quick question. September 8th, is that a normal UIA board meeting date, or is that just special for this public hearing?
We have to have a public hearing, so that's a special one that we're scheduling for just that purpose.
All right. I just noticed I've got a scheduling issue that day, but if not, Brant can take the meeting for me that day. So, but I'm a little bit worried just because we sometimes don't have enough people, but maybe we don't need enough people that day just for the public hearing.
We don't need the 2/3 for the public hearing. We just need.
Okay.
And Brigham City's 19.
Yeah, so we care about Brigham City a lot, but you're not a lot of vote.
There's
percentage wise, we only need 50% for the public hearing. So I think we'll be okay without you. We just need to hold the meeting, and we can do that if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Obviously, we care a lot more about Alex today, but anyway, if anyone's ready, I would entertain a motion for the resolution on the bond parameters.
Nobody wants to read the whole thing. I make a motion that we consider approval of resolution 25-04, considering the authorizing 22 millions of aggregate principal amount of tax exempt revenue bonds. And as the rest of the agenda states, setting the public hearing date of September 8th.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Is there a second?
Second. Alex?
Thank you, Alex. And is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call. Krista, if you'll do that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, Alex Jensen,
Aye.
Brenda Moore,
Aye.
John Flores,
Yes.
Grant Hansen,
Aye.
Adam Kelly,
Aye.
and Derek Weiler.
I'm an aye. Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Alex, for joining us. I think we are through with our business. If there's nothing else, Roger, then I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, Brant. Is there a second?
I'll second that. This is Adam.
Thank you, Adam. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you for your work. Thanks for all everybody does, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.